morning, I was privileged to be invited to join a group of leaders from across the state of Texas. They selected several, and I was privileged to be invited, and we flew into the Dominican Republic Monday. We spent basically Monday night, all day Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday morning came back. And through the experience, although we had an agenda, there were some details that I didn't know about the trip. I just didn't know some of the details. And one of them, there were two details that I didn't know. The first one has to do with places. This was a leadership training. This was the interaction with local leaders, international leaders, Texas leaders, and other countries' leaders. And one of the places that I was just fascinated to walk into, just because of my background, what I've done in the past, is the Universidad Autónoma de Santo Domingo. I love college, I love university, I love higher ed, but this particular place was so just so special to me, because you got to remember that the Dominican Republic is the place or the island between Puerto Rico and Cuba where Christopher Columbus arrived. Now, I just told you that we left Monday. So Monday morning around 6 o'clock, my first plane up to Dallas, Miami, Santo Domingo. So technically, we arrived on October 12th. And Christopher Columbus arrived October 12th. So I just thought that was cool, that we arrive on the same date, to the same place. Has nothing to do with my talk. I just thought that I should share that with you. But as I am hanging out with these amazing people, I get to be in a lecture at this university. Now, this is the first university ever founded, which is 1538, 477 years ago, the first university in the Western Hemisphere. So I thought that was just so very cool. I'm just sitting there and I'm just blown away, of what the legacy of this thing. Now, by Thursday, which it was only Thursday afternoon, that was our free time, kind of a sightseeing, and we get to go downtown of Santo Domingo. And right at downtown, we walk into Santa Maria la Menor Cathedral. And this is the first cathedral ever built in the Western Hemisphere as a Catholic church. The year is 1523, 492 years ago. I thought that was just amazing. Because I'm sitting there, I took those pictures, I'm sitting there, I got my phone, I obviously took the picture, and in this particular church, it's like a museum / church, because there are still worship services held at this church. But I'm sitting there because it's Thursday afternoon, there's no mass going on Thursday. And I'm thinking to myself, here's the legacy of the gospel. Here is how this whole thing unfolded. And I'm just mesmerized by the moment. I'm just thinking to myself, this is just once in a lifetime for me. Because I'm at two particular places, university and the church in this case, and just amazed on see how these people throughout history survived. And here's what I want to say to you, because this is where we're going for the next few minutes. The question that I wanted to ask, if I had a chance to go into these places, is how did you guys, whether it's educationally or whether it's religiously, philosophies and things like that, how did you survive? Because when you walk into Santo Domingo, you got to remember, this island of Santo Domingo, it's really one single island with Haiti. And you guys remember, Haiti was just hit recently with that horrific earthquake. Actually, Santo Domingo, or the Republic of Dominican, they have a lot of refugees from Haiti. So listening to Maurice about refugees, that's their scenario over there. Dominican Republic is a poor country. Haiti is even at a deeper level of poverty. So you can only imagine diversity. You can only imagine the mixture of Europeans coming back in those days, 1500s, and then bringing slaves from Africa. And, I took several pictures. I'm not going to put any on the screen, but I just love pictures with the guys over there because I look lighter. So I said, this is my chance. When I get back home, ain't the case anymore. So this is my chance because, they're obviously darker than me. And it was so cool because I typically wore my caps all day long because it was hot. We walk a lot. And I walk into places, met a lot of people, and I will ask them, just openly say hello. And I said, can you tell me where I'm from? I asked them, I said, where do you think I'm from? Because obviously I don't look Dominican. I just feel so inadequate because here we are going to Germany to teach baseball. Those guys are really good at baseball. I don't know if you know that about Dominicans, but those guys are like, it's like me trying to teach Maurice some soccer. Ain't gonna happen. So kind of the same thing. So anyway, so I'm sitting there with some guys and just enjoying them conversations and talking, and they couldn't figure out where I was from. Many said that I was from Peru, Venezuela, Colombia. I got a lot of Colombia, supposedly, until I started talking. Because my accent, when it came to the Spanish, just, oh, you're Mexican. And I said, see, that would be me. So you know, obviously I didn't look white. I don't look like an American. I just, you know, this whole diversity thing, man, it's just mind blowing. So again, I'm just going through this experience and I'm thinking to myself, you drive through these streets and you go through some museums and you see the scars of history through these places. You just can't help it, but many of these places, they haven't been revitalized. They're still very, very indigenous, very just from these times in history. And I'm asking in my mind, in my soul, I'm just thinking, how do you guys survive? How do you make it through? And the reason why I'm asking this question is because the Monday after I became a pastor at First Baptist, this is the Monday right after the Sunday you guys voted me in, I took this picture. It was Monday morning, early in the morning. And I took this picture, and I won't tell you everything else that I did after that morning. It's between me and God. But why? No, I didn't ask that why. But I took this picture, and in my mind, when I took the previous pictures from the university and the church back in Santo Domingo, I'm thinking to myself, and that's why I'm giving you the dates. This church was founded in 1912. We are 103 years old. So what would happen if we can push the fast forward button in the VCR? VCR. Half of you don't even know what I just said. But we push fast forward on the tape, okay? And somebody comes and visits this building 300 years from now. And I don't know what's going to happen to this building. I don't know if it's going to be a museum. I don't know if there will be still services held in this place. But what if somebody walked into this building 300 years from now, 400 years from now, and took a picture just like me? May not look like that, okay? May not be drums then or shields on a drum set. And they will ask the same question. How did you guys survive this 21st century diversity? If somebody's Googling, our generation and say, oh, this is the year where they legalized same-sex marriage. Oh, this is the year when, and you go through these landmarks of our history. And if they ask the same question, how do you guys survive? You were right in the border. You have all this mixture of mindsets and worldviews and ethnicity. How do you guys make it? I hope and you and I can answer that question right now. Because that's what we're going to talk about today. So the question that I have for you, which is not on your notes, is how do we build unity? So the real thing is not survival, it's really oneness. Like if you're married, the issue is not whether you stay together, the issue is are you becoming one? That's a real conversation. So before I take you into verse 1 of chapter 15, I have to give you my disclaimer. And I hope when you stay put, I have a few minutes left, so just listen to me. I'm going to try to cover this. I'm going to try to go fast without losing you or confusing you with my broken conversational English. But this is what I'm going to say to you. The worldview, the background, the framework of this question, how do you survive and move forward in unity? How do you navigate diversity, calamities, chaos, confusion, which is our context, has to come from this background. That Jesus Christ, when he suffered and when he died, ultimately the sacrifice, the suffering and the sacrifice of Jesus are not simply redemptive. They just did not happen so you can receive Christ, try your best, and one day go to heaven. That's not the main reason, but to be emulated. So I'm going to say that one more time. If you are willing to look at this question and you look at your marriage, you look at your finances, you look at your relationships with friends and co-workers, you look at our nation, and you want us to walk in oneness, in unity. If the church is ever going to be united, you have to come with the premise that the goal of you being a follower of Jesus is not simply heaven. It's Christ likeness. The question now comes, how and what does that mean, and how do you go about it? Well, Hebrews, the book of Hebrews, last year taught us that Jesus was perfected through and by his suffering. So if you're in this place and you're willing to be a follower of Jesus, I'm just telling you right now, whatever Jesus experienced and ultimately what he went through, which is death, we're called to that. Now, obviously, we're not going to kill you today. We're not planning on doing that. So just, I want you to think for a moment why we do water baptism. Because water baptism is a symbolism of what I just explained to you. When you join Jesus in salvation and you become one with Jesus, you have to go through that internal experience of dying to yourself, saying, I am dead to sin, no more of me. Now I want to adopt a new agenda, a new kingdom, but outwardly, that was inwardly. Outwardly, you do the water baptism by immersion, because you're going to be immersed into what we call the water grave. Is the symbolism that you are being united with Jesus, as Jesus also died. Obviously, on the third day, he came back from the dead. And obviously, in your case, we won't wait for 3 days. We'll get you up right away. But you're coming back to a new life in a new experience. Okay, so that in mind, I want you to see that as the premise, because now listen to what he says on verse 1. He says, we, his community, we who are strong. We who have been grounded in the Word, who knew Jesus, we ought to bear with the failings of the weak. Watch the contrast, okay? Strong Christians, strong individuals, people who have fell in love with Jesus, they're supposed to bear with the failings of the weak. Now, please keep in mind, the context of this conversation is Jewish converts into Christianity, Judaism, Christianity, Gentiles, non-Jewish, multiple backgrounds into Christianity. In the context of this unity, in the context of this coming together, because of Jesus, they're bringing all of their baggage. They're bringing all their background. And in this context, he says, among all of you, Jewish converts, Gentile converts, you who are strong between the two groups, you're supposed to carry each other's or bear each other's failings. Because you carrying each other's failings, listen to this, is the antidote of you trying to please yourself. So let me reverse the statement. The best way that you can continue to be dissatisfied, the best way for you and I to continue to think that the pasture is greener on the other side, the best way that you can continue with this American mindset that it's all about me, it's more accumulation, more for my enjoyment, it's all about me. The best way to do that is when you disregard the beginning of the sentence. If you keep on, what's the opposite of bearing or carrying? Think about it. You have your brothers around you, you have the individuals around you, and obviously everybody has faults, everybody has brokenness. So the issue is not that people will get their act together. The issue is not that they will finally adopt your agenda and your worldview. The issue, this is what the issue is what are you going to do with the brokenness around you, with the diversity around you, with all this craziness? What do you do with it? And here's what he's saying. If you disregard the beginning of the statement, at the end, watch this, at the end, you're going to find yourself completely dissatisfied. You're going to think that all you need is a new marriage. As long as the kids live, everything will change. If I can just get the new job, if I can just get the church to really do what I want them to, are you following me on this? Now here's the image of what we're talking about. The image is, I've used this as an illustration of what the law or the reed or the measurement of God is. Please listen to me. When the Bible says that we ought to, since we are strong, we ought to bear with the failings of our weak brothers, he is implying exactly what Jesus did with the Old Testament. The law, the commandments in the Bible were not given, listen to me, were not given so the people of God will carry or bear them. I have taught you before that anybody who tries to do this, this implies death. You will die if you try to please God on your own. You will feel the burden. You will feel completely inadequate because you are, I am. What the law was given for, the purpose is to become an instrument of literally direction, saying, I'm giving it to you so you can see that you cannot fulfill it, but at the same time, I'm giving it to you to show you who is going to fulfill it. His name is Jesus. So Jesus shows up, he looks at the law, he is conceived by the Father through a virgin, he is born in perfection, sinless, lives a perfect life, and he becomes the fulfillment of the law. Please listen to me for a second. The question now comes is, what does that entail? What does that imply? The implication is that Jesus alone, because of his perfection, because of his sinlessness, he was able to take the law, watch this, and he was able to carry the law. When he carried the law and he fulfilled the law, he had to do what the law required, the payment. What was the payment? The soul that sins, that soul shall die. That's why he went to the cross. He went to the cross so he can be the fulfillment of the law, so you can be free from sin. So he bare the law, he bare the cross, obviously because of his perfection, and he carried your sins. The Father approved that. And on the third day, what happened on the third day? The same Jesus that was buried, crucified and buried on the third day. But this experience of the resurrection is the byproduct when he bare the cross. He bare the law. That's exactly the same language Paul is implying. That when it comes to diversity, to struggles, to differences, to brokenness, when you look at what is going on, your job and my job is not to let people know where they are wrong. God forbids that you will use the Word of God or the law to let them know where they are wrong. Never happens in church, right? Never happens. Anybody follow me this morning? Think about it. Because see, this is why I'm asking you to think about this. Maturity. If you're going to be strong, the goal is Christ-likeness. What does that mean? Is that you're going to take people's brokenness, your marriage, your children, your parents, whoever that is around you, and what you're called to do is to literally take this and carry it. Their brokenness. You're going to carry it. Just like Jesus carried your sin, you carry people's brokenness. Listen to me for a second. Because when you do that, oh my, this is so amazing just to discover this from the scriptures. What you're going to do is you're going to be able not to change people's lives. You're going to be able not to just evangelize so they can come to Christ. You know what you're going to be able to? You're going to finally be free that you don't have to satisfy yourself. Did you know that the number one idolatry for anybody is self-gratification? Think about it. Nobody has caused more pain to your life than yourself. Let's just have that conversation right now. So right now, the moment that you take this, instead of telling them how they're wrong or expecting for them to agree with you, regardless of what happens and how they're changed, or if they're changed, is freedom to your soul. Because now you don't have to carry unforgiveness. Now you don't have to depend whether you're accepted or not. Now you don't have to wonder all of the couldas and shouldas. If I would have stayed with him, if we wouldn't get divorced. See, have you ever gone through that stage? That you're like, I'm just frustrated with myself. This is the antidote. So again, maturity is definitely Christ-likeness. Immaturity is self-likeness. Now listen to this. Each of us, just in case that you don't get this clearly and just put into perspective, each of us should stop pleasing ourselves, but pleasing who? The neighbors. Now, what does that mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. That means that you need to do whatever is good for them and whatever is going to build them up. So I'm going to say that one more time. If you are carrying people's burdens and you have been free from trying to please yourself, it's reflected not that you are better, but now they are better. Watch this. They are better not because they change. They are better because you walk into their lives. And when you show up, people are better or good, and people are built up. So let me ask you that question. Are you building up people? when you speak? Is the whole built up, or is it just your kingdom being imposed? Well, what happens in this regard? See, this is why I love the scriptures, because there is a moment in the gospel where Jesus is actually at this place of a relation, a place of prayer, the consecration, and this is the place where in their Jewish practices, this is where they connected with God in this prayer time. And in that context, a mob, just a bunch of people shows up and throws at the feet of Jesus in the public arena a woman that was caught in adultery. And they basically asked this question. Moses said, the law said that this woman deserves what? Death. Huh? Everybody? Death. Jesus replies and says, whoever is without, cast the first. So here's the implication. The implication is that among the whole crew, based on the law, there was only one man that qualified to take the law and kill her. And what did this man do? He looked at the woman and said, go and sin no more. This woman was good, or was better, and this woman was built up. Because Jesus understood that he's supposed to carry, and he's supposed to look beyond personal preferences. So on your handouts, here we go. You need to understand this. That if the goal of this practices, and here's what you have to listen to me. If the goal of this practices ultimately is not so you can change people. Listen to me for a second. It's just two words. Come on, disciples. It's the same word, okay? You can spell that. Listen to me. If the goal is not so me doing this so you can see how spiritual I am, me sacrificing my personal preferences, my personal views. See, the goal is not doing this so circumstances will change, so we'll survive the marriage problems, so we'll get a better job or whatever, or the church will be united. Listen to me. When you do this, when you are able to, again, to please your neighbors, give people what they need, not what they deserve, for you to give them what is good, and for you to build them up, what happens is now your actions, not your theology, not just your doctrine, not just your word, they become worthy of imitation. And that's what I'm using the word disciple. Because now people, what's this? People want to be like you. They want to be like you. So you guys remember this because, as you grow older in marriage, for those who are married, I'm in the 18-year mark of this marriage thing. You remember how people, they start looking alike as time goes by? Right? That's what I'm talking about in discipleship. That you want to be like him. You really want to imitate your mother. You as an uncle, as a grandfather, you are the standard on how to negotiate and deal with adversity. Now we're in a time where now younger couples, they look alike as they get married. I mean, it's like scary sometimes. So here's how you know whether you're doing this right, whether we are doing this right as a church. If I'm carrying people's burdens versus just being tired of them, it's like, these people, okay? And if you are able to actually minimize your personal preferences or your own satisfaction, this is going to be reflected not because circumstances will change, it's because people want to be like you. To the point that maybe, I don't know, maybe, there is a resemblance in things that you do. Come on, think about it. There's a point where people really want to be like you. They really want to imitate everything you do, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you worship God. Are you following me on this? It's all about making disciples. And please listen to me. You can only make disciples with disciples. That's all that I'm going to say on that one. So Jesus reproduces himself because the way he obviously lived. Listen to verse 3. For even Christ, even Jesus, he did not please himself. He was the one that could have said, I qualify to nail down, to stone this lady. And he didn't do it. But listen to what he says. As it is written, this is Paul quoting the book of Psalms, Psalm 69. He says, the insults of those who insult you have fallen on me. Now, here's what I want you to listen to me for a second. See, up to this point, some of you are thinking about your spouse, carrying your spouse's burden since you marry him. It's like, I don't believe in divorce, so might as well just go on. Okay? Some of you are here like, okay, I hope this child one day grows up. So here we go, it's 32 years of age and it's still, Okay, that's not what I'm talking. Listen to what he says. He says, the insults of those who, see, what he's talking about, and again, Jesus as a model, he's not talking about those that you loved. He's talking about those who hate you. Did I just say that? Please listen to me. He's talking about those who hate you, despise you. And he says, the insults of those who insult you have fallen. See, remember that Jesus didn't just die for John, the beloved disciple. Jesus didn't just die for Mary, his own mother. Jesus died for the very same people who was crucifying him. That's what he's talking about. So on your handouts, let me close this. Your job description from this point forward, if you're going to learn to navigate, again, diversity, chaos, differences, your job, beginning today, you are the justifier and you are the sanctifier. Husbands, if your wife is only listening the Word of God Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock, you are not being the justifier, you are not being a sanctifier. If my children are only listening, and I'm not saying that you're going to preach to them, but all that I'm saying, if this gospel constant presentation is only happening in a sacred hour, at a sacred place, on Sunday mornings, we are in so much trouble that what's going to happen at the end is you're going to try to do this. You're going to try to deny yourself, but you're going to end up with bitterness. You're going to be regretting it. You're going to go through all these couldas and shouldas. That was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. And you go through all this experience of trying to please God on your own. And I just told you a while ago, the law was not given so you can carry it. The law was given so you can see Jesus who can carry it and you can trust Jesus. Well, now, let's talk about the trust of Jesus. Glad you asked. For everything that was written, everything, Old Testament, everything that was written in the past was written with one purpose, and that is to teach us, not to teach you. But listen to that. If you're going to learn the Bible, listen to me. If you're going to learn the Bible, if you're going to learn how to do this, it's in community. Stop thinking that all that you need is your iPad or your Christian radio station and just my water and a time with God. I'm glad you do that. Good for you. What does that mean? What does that mean? That you are praying for your spouse, that you're praying for your children. I'm glad you're praying for them. But listen to me. Listen how it is written to teach us, not you. See, not me, but us. So that, listen to this, this is what happens when you are taught by the Scriptures. The Bible is not saying that if you come to a community, that if you learn from the Bible with others, things are going to change. All that it says, that it produces endurance. Did you hear that? That's all that it says. It doesn't promise a change of circumstances. It doesn't say that now, finally, she's going to get it and think like you. Finally, this time, he's going to get over the hump, and finally, it's going to sink in his soul about following Christ, or whatever the case may be. Now it's creating endurance, which is the opposite of what? What's the opposite of endurance? Quitting? Giving up? Anybody trying to give up today? Some of you are here just because they make you come, but you haven't really given or persevered in your faith. You're giving up, and you know it. Some of you are just here because it's Sunday and someone promised you lunch. And after church, you're going to go and eat. But you are so quick to just quit. Listen to this. This endurance comes from the teaching in the Scriptures. And the encouragement, listen to this, the encouragement the Scriptures in community provide, what do? Not a change of circumstances. They simply promote, here's a 4-letter word that you have to take home today. Hope. And that word hope is the word certainty. It's not wishful thinking. Now, why is this important to us? This is why. Because faith, trusting that what he said about himself, not about me, not the blessing that I need, not the promises I gotta receive, but it's the faith that I'm trusting what he said about himself, helps you to realize, please listen to me, helps you to realize that you don't need a word from God. You don't need a miracle from God today. You don't need just to fix this through God. What you need, what I need, this is faith. I need God. God Himself is the greatest blessing you will ever receive. Stop thinking that what you need is a God that can change things for you. I'm all for change, and I hope things improve for you. But stop thinking that faith is simply having this romanticized feeling, this eager desire of your soul for things to be better. Listen to me. Faith is understanding that whatever He said about Himself, I'm going to believe it. I'm going to embrace it. That if He promised to walk with me through the valley of the shadow and death, what am I going to do? I'm going to enjoy His presence in the middle of the valley of shadow and death. That if He promised that one day the eastern sky is going to split open and those who have fallen asleep will come back from the dead, I'm going to trust Him. That this is not a period, this is a comma. That even though there is suffering and there is adversity and there is brokenness and there is mess and there's a chaotic thing, and most of the time I have no idea what to do, if He promised that He will take my brokenness, that He will utilize all this craziness for the expansion of His fame, I'm going to trust Him that He's going to do that. Now watch this. If you can agree with me to do that today, and you can call upon the God who promised to be a God to you, a lover to you, exclusively with you, and He will promise a relationship with you, listen to me, it has to be reflected on faithfulness. This is why your faith on what He said about Himself. Now listen to me, if you don't know what He said about Himself, you're in deep weeds, bro. You have a serious problem. That's why we are calling you to come and join the community of believers. But once you experience this faith, has to be reflected in faithfulness. And the two things combined, that's what gives you the certainty that tomorrow, as crazy as tomorrow can potentially be, it's all good. God is in control. God is sovereign. And regardless what happens, I am committed to take the brokenness of my surroundings, even though I am the victim, even though they did it to me, even though I don't deserve it. I'm willing to take that brokenness because Jesus took my brokenness and I'm going to put it on my shoulders. And this right here is going to give me the most freeing experience that I don't have to satisfy myself. Maurice, I didn't do this on the other services, but I'm going to do it right now. Come here, brother. Come here. I'm freaking out my brother right now because he has no idea what I'm going to do with him. All right. So this young man will be with us between now and the end of March, beginning of April. And when he gets back to Germany, I'm sure a lot of the German brothers and sisters are going to ask him, how did it go? Did you lose weight? Did you gain weight? How did they treat you? You're darker. What happened to you? They're going to ask him. And folks, he's about to engage into the heart of this church. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is a messy church. Because you're part of it. That's the reason. Because I'm here. We typically mess things up. When Maurice is confronted by his parents, his siblings, North Denver Church, and they ask him, how did it go? Tell us about First Baptist and Far. I hope and Maurice can recite verses 5 and 6 to describe us. May the God, now he's speaking about us right now, 6 months from now, who gives endurance. I worked with the church for 6 months. Not that they had it easy. They just endure. Are you following me on this? We're not the church that has it easy. We are the church that we endure. And we are the church that we have received encouragement. This endurance and encouragement that Maurice is going to describe about us, hopefully in 6 months, has been given to us within the same attitude Oh, Maurice is going to get to know our attitude. Trust me. The attitude that it has to do with the mind towards each other that was in the mind of Jesus Christ. So would you please make this our prayer as he gets to know this community, and he can go back home eventually and say, this church is crazy down there. It's just crazy. But they have known how to endure. They are encouraged in the midst of persecution, craziness, just brokenness, because they have the same attitude that was based on the mind of Jesus Christ, to the point that I hope that he says, so that with one mind, listen to me, one mind, First Baptist Church, one mind, and one single voice, this church has learned to glorify the God who is also the Father of our big brother, Jesus Christ. Folks, if he's not able to experience that from us in the next 6 months, I don't care about coming over to the valley, going to Germany. It's pointless. I'm just telling you right now. It's a false gospel. I don't care what we do. If we're not in one mind and one voice, worshiping the one single God. So, brother, I want you to hold us accountable, because 6 months from now, that right there needs to be our making as a church. That right there needs to be the distinctiveness of who we